All right, gang, welcome back to the live room. We've got some pre-CPI movement coming out in the market already, if you look at the charts right here. And we got some more. Look at that. Boom, 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 boom. Let the roller coaster ride begin. Let the roller coaster ride begin. Let me see if I can bring up a range bar chart for you guys. Yeah. The interesting thing is, right, I don't know if you noticed it. I tried to bring it over before we started. About a minute before. Did you notice how the market started moving a minute before? Right? All this right here happened a minute before, right? This is 8:30. This was a minute before. So something interesting I learned early on in my trading career is money buys information. And typically trading is about, maybe not necessarily on our level, but it's about a knowledge, it's about knowledge and information. And if you have the money, you can pay to get the information before everyone else. So there are data streams and news providers out there where you pay fees and you can get the release, a minute or so, 30 seconds or so before it actually comes out. So whenever you see these kind of moves before the moves, it's certain people out there that have access to the information, and the wealthier ones have access to more information than us. It's them getting the information just a little bit before. A little bit before. Here's dollar yen for you. Let's look at euro dollar. Getting the information a little bit before and being able to make a decision. And sometimes that decision is meant to trick others. Again, you imagine, right? You see this happening, and we watched it live. Imagine you see this happening right before, right? What would you assume is going to happen, right? Put yourself in the shoes of a trader that's looking to trade the news, right? I was like that one day where I'm just trying to trade the big release. Put yourself in the shoes of that trader, right? You know 8:30 is what we've been waiting for all week. This is the big one, right? Keel's been saying all week, this is it. This is the one that's going to move the markets. You're waiting to see what the reaction is so you can hop on, right? Akil always says, right? You want to be like a fly around the elephant's tail, and you want to see when the elephant's moving, and you want to grab the tail. What do you think you're doing when you see the market a minute before news, 30 seconds before news comes out, spike up? What do you assume you're doing? Are you buying or selling? You're punching those buy orders as quickly as possible. And then it tanks against you, the whipsaw. Then it tanks against you. So we've talked a lot about, again, I don't like calling it manipulation in the market, but we've spoken a lot about how supply and demand really works, and what your insiders, your institutional traders need to do if they want to get their positions on. Just think about the market in a different perspective when you see stuff like that happen. When you see a very highly aggressive move in one direction only to go the other direction. Think about who's the bait. Think about who is, because humans, we're pretty predictable in our actions, as I just explained it. Think about what's being done and how it's not manipulating, because it's not making you do anything, but think about how it's encouraging many traders out there, knowing how new money-hungry traders think. Think about what actions it's encouraging those traders to do. And then we can get into the whole reaction after that, where after you're losing money, then you got to get out, and that pushes it down. But then you want to revenge trade, so you get back in the opposite direction, because now you want to sell, and now they know you're going to sell, so now it goes back up, and you keep getting whipsawed to death, right? We're watching here on the range bar chart, right? Now, I would say this, and everyone's different, but this has just been my stance on it. As a professional trader, right? Someone who has tried this for years, or maybe not for years, but I at one point in my trading career, I thought I'd make money just off trading high impact news events. But as someone who has day traded through stuff like this for years, for someone who is very risk adverse, for someone whose number one goal in trading is conservation of capital, do you guys see why I choose to play the sidelines? I don't like to gamble on these events. This is where we talk about giving the buffer zones, right? This is where we're talking about giving the buffer zones, right? 15 minutes before, if you're going to avoid news. And again, I was just handling an email with this question yesterday. If you're going to avoid news, 15 minutes before, don't do anything. Don't take any new trades. 15 minutes after, let the dust settle down, right? Yeah, and Cody just mentioned, not to mention your slippage and spreads. Because even if you do get involved, you're not going to get involved where you think you're going to get involved at. Avoid this stuff, right? But the problem is, right, someone right now, I guarantee it, someone right now is making a YouTube Shorts, they're making a TikTok, they're getting the Instagram reel ready, talking about how much money they captured during this move. It's not even a big move. But you know someone's doing it. You know you're going to go on social media later and see it. Someone's got 2 accounts open, Cody. They've got one account where they went long, they got one account where they went short, and they're filming both, and they're saying whichever one wins, that's the one I'm showing. And you're gonna get a YouTube ad. Let me tell you how I made $100,000 in 2 minutes of trading, and you can do this once a week, right? Someone's doing it. Someone's doing it. But that's just for social media though, where the reality is probably a harsh reality, and that's why they feel the need to make those social media things and kind of create that false reality. But you know it's happening. I guarantee you're gonna see this later, and you're gonna see someone say, "Look at that, huh? How did we catch this news? Sign up for my course, and I'll show you how." But we don't care about that type of stuff. But interesting. Now, what else is interesting is I always said this. I love watching these news events on the range bar chart, because what I've noticed, we didn't get it in this particular case. When you see this whipsaw, so you look at the 15, you see the whipsaw is when we go like up and down. That's what we call it, whipsaw. Imagine like, I don't know how many of you guys are into like the old WWF wrestling or WCW, where they're throwing you across the ropes and like they're whipping you. We call that the whipsaw, where you get whipped to one side, you bounce off the ropes and you run to the other side, and then you get clotheslined in the middle of it, right? That's the whipsaw that happens to trader. If I was good at video editing, I would insert like a wrestling clip of like The Rock throwing me against the wall, like new trader trading during news. Rock throws me against the wall, throws me back, and I get clothesline in the middle, and then he hits me. He does the people's elbow. He slowly removes that elbow pad, if you guys know what I'm talking about, and then just pins an elbow on my chest, and I died. It's a perfect example of this. This is why you want to avoid this stuff. It's the whipsaw. But what I love watching is, I love watching what it looks like on a range bar chart. Because on a minute-based candle, you get this, right? And this gives you absolutely zero information. It takes you up, takes you down, blah, blah, blah. I notice a lot of patterns forming. I don't think we got to one this time. We're going to be a little bit short of the 50%. Yep. But I notice a lot of patterns, like cipher patterns and whatnot, form during these whipsaws, which is very interesting. And it just brings to more light that I told you guys years ago, I had the luxury. This is when I first got started teaching. And I befriended this former institutional trader, and he was sitting in the live room and just seeing what I was about, because he was interested in whatever like that. And because we had met at we did a workshop out in Kansas City, a live one. I was picking his mind, trying to act like I knew what he was talking about, but I really didn't. But I wanted to seem cool. And we had a conversation after one of my live rooms. He's like, "Hey, Akil, like I see you love the pattern stuff." He's like, "Yeah, advanced pattern formations, harmonic patterns, like I really love them." He's like, "You do know how they form, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, but tell me anyway, right?" And he explained about the buying and selling habits of institutional traders, insiders, whatever you want to call them, and how those buying and selling habits is what creates those ebbs and flows in the market. And I always say my biggest regret is like I didn't take notes, I didn't write it down. Like I was trying to act too cool, like, oh yeah, like I knew what I knew because I wanted to fit in. But it reaffirms that every time you see these massive news events, and then you look back and again specifically on a range bar chart, because it gives you a more it gives you a better look at price movement. And you see pattern formations form, whether it's advanced pattern formations, your Gartleys, your ciphers, whether you see stuff like, your loss of momentum pattern, you get your rising channel right here coming in the previous structure. Like we look at this on any other time frame, this is a no-brainer trade, right? Rising channel, right to a VS1 level, previous structure, massive divergence on the RSI. Obviously, you're not catching this. You're not catching this in the middle of a news event. But isn't it pretty cool to see this stuff? The same advanced patterns, the same simple patterns, the same formation that we see normally in the market, they happen during these events as well, just at a much faster rate. So it's pretty cool. Again, can you actually trade it? Probably not. Maybe I wouldn't trade it. I mean, maybe the very end of it, perhaps. I'd still rather wait till that 15-minute window closes, to be honest with you. until the smoke or the dust settles. But it's interesting stuff to see how the market moves even within these kind of high volatility events. So pretty cool stuff there.